said, you guys are the ones that make this thing.
A call to order the regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, June 24th, 2019. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
First District Councilwoman Myrna Maldonado. Third District Councilwoman Brenda Walker.
Present.
Fourth District Councilwoman Christine Vasquez.
Present.
Fifth District Councilman Robert Garcia. Sixth District Councilwoman Gilda Orn.
Present.
Councilman at Large Richard Medina.
Present.
Councilman at Large Emiliano Perez.
Present.
Councilman at Large Kenneth Monroe. Council President Lenny Francisco.
Present. Madam Clerk, for the record, I did get a call from Councilwoman Maldonado, Councilman Garcia, and Councilman Monroe. They will be not attending the meeting this evening. I have a motion to accept the minutes for the meeting on Tuesday, May 28th, 2019.
So moved.
Second. Motion was made by Councilwoman Walker, seconded by Councilman Medina. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes. Madam Clerk, do we have any communications from the mayor?
No.
Any communications from department heads?
Yes. Accounts payable warrant 060619 CC, 062419 DD, 062419 LA, 062419 CC, 062819 CC.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez, to accept accounts payable warrants as read. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes.
Payroll warrants bi-weekly 061419.
So moved to accept.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilwoman Walker, to accept warrant bi-weekly 061419. Have any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes. This time, do we have any committee reports? Moving on to board reports, do we have any board reports? Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on first reading?
Yes. Ordinance 1-0010, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2752 entitled exiting chapter 156 of the East Chicago Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, and repealing all other ordinance in conflict therewith by amending section 156.077, special uses by adding section 26, outdoor storage of vehicles and people uses.
So moved on first and second reading. Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez, to hear ordinance 19-0010 on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman,
President, do we have anyone to speak on this?
Good afternoon. Marina Solorio, Planning and Economic Development Director here for the city. So basically what we have here is, we believe that currently truck storage or car storage is an industrial use. The difference is that what we want to do is make it a special use so that we could guide where that happens. As you know, the city has a lot of industrial land around its neighborhoods. And so it's something that could be considered unsightly by a lot of people within the neighborhoods. And even an example of this would be something like our downtown next to the what used to be the Chevrolet dealership. And now there's truck parking there. And so the idea is that we are trying to guide this type of use in industrial land, but in places that are a little more remote and not as close to like downtown corridors or neighborhoods because of, real estate values, things like that. And so that is the premise of why we're putting it as a special use. So it still would be allowable, but it just has to go through a process to be allowed in that zone. Where right now, you can build this anywhere that is industrial. So I don't know if that answers.
So what you're saying, that they'll have to go through the Board of Zoning?
That is correct.
For them to put up something like that?
That is correct.
And the whole procedure and everything else, correct?
That is correct.
Councilman Medina?
Will the sites that currently do it, are they going to be grandfathered?
They would be grandfathered. So this would just be anyone new moving forward. And then if someone loses their grandfather, then that obviously also changes.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Comment to supplement what Mr. Solario stated to the council. This is a proposed amendment to the text of the zoning ordinance. This, as the council members know, doesn't approve any particular business to do this right now, the off-street parking. The council members will remember in March, you passed ordinance 19-0001 that created another category of special uses back then for tank farms. The council members recall when we worked on that ordinance? This ordinance to create a special use zoning category for the outdoor storage of vehicles is the same concept. You're amending the text of the zoning ordinance so that if a property owner wishes to undertake this outdoor storage of vehicles use, as the president stated, they would have to go through the full procedure of petitioning the Board of Zoning Appeals first. Board of Zoning Appeals notifies adjoining property owners, they notify the public, they conduct a public hearing, and they determine whether to recommend that special use permit to the council. Ultimately, you have final control on whether any property owner gets this special use in the future, because the final decision comes from the city council, and the protection that you have is that the petitioner, if he wants this special use, he's got to prove that it doesn't harm public health, the use doesn't adversely affect property values, the use is compatible with the surrounding area, not detrimental to the surrounding area, and does not create an excessive nuisance. So the council is the ultimate decision maker, and you have protections right in the code to make sure that these uses are not contradictory with the placement where they would be proposed for.
Thank you, Council. Madam Clerk, roll call to adopt ordinance 19-0010 on second reading.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
And Lucy.
Yes. Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0011, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland. An ordinance to allow for the creation of new original art murals and the preservation of vintage art murals on private property.
So moved on first and second reading. Second.
A motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez, to hear ordinance 19-0011 on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilwoman Orange?
So throughout the city, are you trying to create murals that would be put up? Or people have asked about doing artwork on the walls and stuff?
So it's a little bit of both. What really kind of started this path was Euclid Tap was building or was painting a mural, and on one side they did their logo, and on the other side they did, it's like a shipping canal like image. And so in the code, there's no distinction between a sign and like how artwork could be used as just a mural, or if it could be used as a sign. And so if it's the Euclid Tap logo, in my perspective, would be more of a sign because it's to the business. And so it did not fit the ordinance's categorization in terms of size. But because they passed it through as a mural type, that kind of led that conflict. So I said, you know what, before this gets kind of out of hand, because sometimes when, in places like these areas where they make one, other people kind of get inspired to do others. And so I said, let's have something that kind of guides the process so that it's all streamlined, it's all the same systematic process, because we have no distinction right now between a mural or a sign. And then the code is very not clear on that at all. So what we did is through the planning commission, we came up with some guidelines, and then we mimicked some ordinances in other places that are a little bit more progressive with this, like California, Portland, Oregon, things like that, to kind of come up with these guidelines that would set parameters for anyone that's putting a mural, whether it's on private property or public spaces, things like that. And so that's where that is the premise of this, to set a standard. And ultimately, what this ordinance would do is that it puts the burden of proof or the approval process through the planning commission. So the planning commission would vote to allow or disallow a mural not on what it is producing, but on parameters, like can't be anything bigger than this, it can't, da-da-da. So more on that than it is on the actual content.
Councilwoman Orange?
So if a person paints the outside of their garage, they would have to come before the planning committee?
No. So the guidelines is specific that like if someone is painting like their garage, the side of the garage, that's just considered an improvement. A mural really is an artistic form of, it could be painting, could be tile, mosaic, things like that, but it's purposeful, and it could be abstract, but it symbolizes something. And so painting a wall like this, in your, garage or your house or something like that, even on commercial buildings, one plain color is not a mural. It wouldn't be like.
I wasn't talking about that, but you have a lot of people that painted their garage, whether they like the Cubs or the Sox and the logo is being painted on there, they would have to go before the zoning board of appeals in order to paint the front of their garage with the mural.
So in that instance, this ordinance does not allow murals in residential neighborhoods unless there's municipal or institutional buildings that you're putting this on. If someone is putting it on their garage or their home, they would have to go through the BZA to get that formally approved. Because we do believe that it can work two ways depending on how artsy your community is, but it could either raise the values of homes next to them or it could be detrimental. So we don't really, there is going to be a process for people to do that, but it's not allowed in this current version of this.
So what happens to
That
people?
residential use that Councilwoman Orange asked about, you indicated BZA, that's a separate approval process from what's contemplated in this statute, correct?
Because there,
Or in this ordinance.
correct, because there is no approval for residential murals. This does not allow murals in residential neighborhoods.
What about the people that have already got them up there?
Those are grandfathered in. So like everything else, any time from this point forward, if when approved, fully approved, that's what would guide that. So anyone else that already has one, even if they want to spruce it up or fix it because, it's faded or whatever, they're allowed to do that. They're grandfathered in.
Attorney Buscemi, is that intruding on people's First Amendment rights to be able to?
No, it's not. Municipalities like the city of East Chicago have general legal authority from the state to regulate in, you've heard this clause many times, in the best interest of the public health, safety, and welfare. So you have the right to pass ordinances that regulate original art murals and the display of them because they affect the neighbors and they affect the community. And this ordinance sets up a registration process where if you or I wish to have a new original art mural painted or to do it ourselves, there'll be an application process. And I think the key to this, Marino, is that the regulations that you already have a draft of that you're working on, that they be uniform so that all applicants in the city are judged by the same
Criteria.
standards, and everyone has their opportunity to get a registration. And then if the particular proposed mural that they're seeking registration on doesn't meet the criteria, then that particular one in that particular case would be rejected. So this is a form of a regulatory ordinance, and you have legal authority to pass this type of regulation. I've been working with Mr. Solario and Attorney Allegretti on just refining some of the wording in the proposed ordinance and also the regulations that would be used by the city board. And if you pass this tonight on first and second reading, we'll probably have a slightly revised version for you to consider on third reading.
I just have one last question.
Councilwoman Orange?
So how will you know who has been grandfathered? Have you guys taken, a survey of the people that already have them? Because I do know people that have that at their house, So, have you taken, or someone needs to call and say, I had this 2 years ago, am I grandfathered in? How will people know? And, how will you determine who just got it and who, because I may, before the third reading, I decide to run and paint that mural before this third reading passes. So, how will you distinguish what is what?
So the first response to your first question is no, we do not have a systematic way to identify which murals have been put up and which ones aren't, whether they're in residential or industrial or commercial. What we are going to do is use the EC newsletter to discuss this about the mural and if there's opportunity, and that if you do have a mural and you want to register it so that people understand that you're grandfathered in, you could. And so that'd be just a simple call with a picture that we can put on file. But ultimately, the way this is going to work is just any new person that comes in with a mural will be submitting all this stuff, and we will have files of each one moving forward.
Councilman Perez?
Well, then there was a second question, and I don't.
That's okay.
Okay.
Councilman Perez?
Now, you're going to regulate, from my understanding, the size, dimensions, and that you're not going to regulate content? Is that correct?
We cannot regulate content.
So then theoretically, someone can paint a mural in a neighborhood, alcohol, for example, next on a liquor store wall, and make a mural with a lot of people having fun drinking alcohol. I'm just trying to think of.
Yeah.
something.
So in that case, specifically to that, if it's a liquor store, then I could interpret that as a sign because you are marketing a product that you're purchasing in that store. But if that mural was going at School City of Chicago building and it's people, just going crazy and doing their thing, then that's a mural because you're not associating the business with that mural, or can't be associated. That makes sense. So if someone wants to put Satan in their mural, then they could very well do that. What we are governing is that there's a process. You have to get support letters, you have to get neighborhood input, things like that, and everyone is governed by the same process. So as long as we keep that consistent, then content by legality cannot be, I can't say, sorry, I don't like it.
And what is the current regulation for mural?
There is no current regulation for murals, and that is why I decided to ask that we add this.
So should we interpret that, this is probably a question for Mr. Buscemi, should we interpret that the murals are not allowed because there is no regulation, or that they're allowed without regulation?
They exist at the present time without there being any city regulation. That's the best way to answer it. The artistic murals.
Moving forward, I understand they exist, but if someone wanted to put a mural now, could the city technically stop them now?
If this an ordinance were in effect,
If it wasn't in effect, if we did not pass this, is someone free to put up any mural they want to put up?
right now, Marino, does the Board of Zoning Appeals regulate placement of murals without this ordinance being in effect at the present time?
No, so the only way currently that we have is two things. If you are painting a commercial building, requires a permit, so there is some sort of process that you can't just decide to paint, what you need to paint or want to paint. And that's really only on the commercial side, not necessarily on the residential. And then secondly, again, if the mural is to be construed as a sign, then that's the only other. But mural is mentioned once in our ordinance, but it just talks about how it's an art form of expression, but there are no guidelines to how big, how wide, what colors, anything like that.
So the answer to Councilman Perez's question would be yes, since there is no ordinance in effect today, if it wasn't a commercial message or commercial sign, a citizen could today paint a mural and not be in any violation of any existing city ordinance, correct?
That is correct. And typically when your ordinances are radio silent on certain things, because there isn't anything there, then it technically is allowed in any aspect, so I'm trying to create something that will make sure that there isn't that ambiguity and that it's a free-for-all for, everyone, that there's a process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call to adopt ordinance 19-0011 on second reading.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes. Councilwoman Orange.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and hear it on the third reading.
Second.
Mr. President
Counselor.
and Councilwoman Orange, we have further work to do
On this, okay.
on the wording of the ordinance, and
Okay.
we'll do that expeditiously, but we would respectfully request that the council not enact this particular version on third reading tonight.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0012, sponsored Councilman Lenny Francisco. An ordinance amending title 311, Traffic Code Chapter 72, parking regulation.
So moved on first and second reading?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Medina, to hear ordinance 19-0012 on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? I believe we do have somebody here to speak on it.
Yes. Basically, what this ordinance is doing is it's allowing that signs get put up for business parking for the corner of Reading and 150th. Currently, there is no signs that state that. There is a petition through the BZA coming through with the condition that this be handled prior to them being approved. So the petition's coming to you next following meeting for a restaurant to open up there. And so what we're trying to do is, there was residents that were concerned about parking. There is residential parking on the other side already that isn't necessarily being enforced per se, and maybe it needs to be, and better signage, so we're gonna take care of that. But we're also then, on the side, for the commercial side of things, the business, is that we're putting these signs for them to be able to have that 1 hour parking for their business, so that it's not, either one can't, protrude, I guess, on that parking for that use. The building, or that corner to the alley, is really the size of the building. So it's not like they're infringing on another house parking or anything like that. It is the whole length of the building.
If I could just say, just for my colleagues, I was there attending the BZA meeting as well, with some of the residents there, the precinct committee woman as well, and I think we all came up to an agreement that this is a great way for everybody as far as the business to flourish, with the parking as well as the residential parking. Like you said, one side of the street, the east side of the street, does have residential parking. There is a church on the same block, so that's why it was the residential parking there from the beginning. So they do have some spots in the back of the restaurant as well for parking. So that'll help some of the congestion for the residents as well. So I'm asking my colleagues to vote yes on this tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Breen.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, roll call to adopt ordinance 19-0012 on second reading.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Krasinski.
Yes. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on second reading? Do we have any ordinances on third reading? Do we have any resolutions? Moving on to old business, do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? Councilman Medina?
Mr. President and colleagues, I've been going around the city a lot lately. The weather's nice and I'm on my bike. However, adjacent to Block Junior High, I believe that's Butternut Street, right off of Columbus Drive, there's no signage there for speed limit. Vehicles are coming through there, turning off of Columbus Drive at a very high rate of speed, and that's right adjacent to the school. I'd like for the city to erect some signage there indicating the school zone. Can we have that done?
Yes, Councilman, I'll reach out to Director of Public Works, Mr. Selvey, and make sure he gets on that. I will let you know by next meeting when they'll be put up. If not, probably they will be put up by then.
Thank you.
Do we have any other new business? Moving on to public expression. If you can please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I believe we do have one. Mrs. Elizabeth Palacios.
Hi, Council. How are you today? It is a beautiful day. I'm here to ask the Council. I have a copy here of Mayor Lightfoot's statement on the ice and raids plan by the Trump administration. Can the Council and our Mayor take similar steps voicing objections to ICE regarding the raids and directing our police department not to cooperate? I have copies here of Mayor Lightfoot's statement and also some other information for each of you. I copied out 12, and if you could do that, we protect our citizens from being scared. I work with immigrants coming from Texas, and they come with nothing. They come here they seek asylum, and we're all entitled. I'm very moved by this step because we have a lot of citizens in our community that have taken steps. They've canceled doctor's appointments. They've canceled scheduling. Some have left their homes. I don't know if you know anybody that might need help. I work with to this day, and tomorrow I work with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. I also work with the Chicago Immigration Transit Alliance, and we help the people coming from Texas going to either Michigan. Some are going to Oregon. I worked with people last week. They were from Mexico, Honduras, Venezuela, and they were families, and some of the babies didn't have Pampers. And I also work with Northwest Indiana Resistance, stopping our deportations here at the Gary Airport. I urge you please to take action, and I thank you for hearing me. I have copies for you here.
You can just give everything to the clerk, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great week.
And also, I believe we have one more left from the greatest troop in Northwest Indiana, Troop 7. If you guys want to come up and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, President, council members, council ladies. I'd like to introduce you to first of all, let me introduce myself. I am Sylvia Arvallo. I'm one of the Assistant Scoutmasters of Troop 7 of East Chicago, Indiana, based out of St. Stanislaus Church. This is Nicholas Mendez.
Hello there.
Nicholas is about to become Eagle. He is finishing up his citizenship of the community.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce you to our newest member. This is Ramon, and he just crossed over this April, so he's our newest scout. So you'll get to see his face pretty soon. It's basically their very first meeting. They've never seen the city hall itself. And I always love this particular merit badge because they're able to see you face to face. I don't know if you recognize Miss Orange. She goes to our church. Probably haven't. Okay, Mr. Medina, longtime member of the city. Mr. Perez, Ms. Vasquez, Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker is in my district, and I don't know you gentlemen.
This is a great program.
Thank you so much. We, believe it in.
You forget about me?
Oh!
My
and the
chopped
main
liver,
one,
what?
Mr. President.
Welcome,
Our
welcome.
pancake flipper.
Yeah, welcome.
So I just wanted them to introduce themselves, say a little bit about themselves, and do their thing.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Mendez. I don't really know what to say.
Tell them about your Eagle.
What I want to do is I want to redo the nativity scene for our church. So I want to hopefully get all that done before I turn 18, which is in a couple months. Yeah, I need to start early, but I waited a little bit too long. I go to Whiting High School. I play football there. Yeah,
Good for you.
I'm really shy right now.
Good for you.
My name's Ramon. Same thing, I don't know what to talk about.
Why do you like scouting?
Because it can teach you many things that you will need to learn in the future.
Very good.
Always look forward to visiting you all. Again, God bless. And that's our Troop 7.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilwoman Walker. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Orange? Yes. Medina?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
President
Yes, good night.